We had three distinguished speakers today, and I'm privileged to be the MC for this afternoon. I'm Margie Vanderhei, and as you listen to the people speak this afternoon, I want you to keep three things in mind. Ask yourself, why did you move to the community you moved to? Not Northern Virginia, not Washington, D.C. You may have come for school or work or whatever. Why did you choose to live where you do? And the second question is, what is it that makes a community special? What does it take to keep a community strong and vibrant for everyone? And the third thing, as you listen to our speakers this afternoon, what are you personally going to do about it to make sure that our communities stay strong and vibrant and work in partnership with these people who work so hard to represent us? So it is my distinct honor to introduce first a friend of very long standing. I'd say we've known each other for decades, but we're way too young to have known decades. But a colleague and a friend. We have worked together on regional issues, not just Northern Virginia, not just metropolitan Washington, but also regional issues of cooperation overseas with a sister region in Germany. Jerry Connolly has been a tireless advocate for people who have no voice, for the tough issues that defy easy reconciliation and conclusion and solution. And he has worked on our behalf as our 11th district congressman, before that chairman of the Board of Supervisors, for all of us on issues that matter in terms of transportation, education, now foreign affairs, and also making life better, answering those questions that I posed to you today. For our speakers today, these questions have been asked and answered, but Jerry Connolly is among foremost legislators, both at the local and now at the congressional level, who have been advocates for us. And he's going to tell us why it's so important, the political climate that we have today, and why we need really good people in Richmond to help us solve our problems. Congressman?
Thank you. Actually, I am here to remind you all that we only have 49 days to the holiest day of the year, St. Patrick's Day. And I expect to see each and every one of you at Kena Temple. It is, yeah. I always know a heathen when they go, when is that? It's the same day every year, March 17th. So we look forward to seeing all of you. And I also want to congratulate our hosts for actually having this beautiful painting of Kathleen Murphy when she was younger. Fitting right in here in McLean and Great Falls. It's great to be with you today. And for me, this is a labor of love. I got to tell you, when I became convinced we needed change in the 34th district, if I needed to be convinced, it was this last summer. Two people who are generally Republicans, Dan and Julie Clemente, were instrumental in helping to get Clement Jontry Park here completed. And they decided to have a special day dedicated to wounded warriors this past summer, early in the summer. And they did a great job. They got a lot of wounded warriors from Iraq and Afghanistan and their families there. It was a great celebration. And a number of us showed up to lend our support for the event. The incumbent delegate from the 34th district showed up wearing a Mitt Romney for President t-shirt. Now, all of us at an appropriate time want to support our candidates. But to turn an event honoring men and women who have given limbs to their country and overseas is, to me, going way beyond partisan propriety. And it showed what little regard she had for the event. She felt her role was to be a poster for a partisan political campaign. And that bothered me a great deal, because I don't like being represented in Richmond by people like that. And then I looked at her record. And this is how Kathleen Murphy is going to be our next House of Delegates member. Because I actually believe, and maybe all of you do too, I hope it's not a naive belief, that the people who represent us ought to represent us. They ought to share our values. Now, I can tell you something about this district. This is a pro-choice district. And yet, the incumbent has a 0 voting record with Planned Parenthood. The incumbent gave full-throated support to an item, a legislative item that made Virginia's General Assembly the laughingstock of the United States. Vaginal ultrasound requirements in order to exercise the right to a choice. One of the most anti-women, and for that matter, speaking for us guys, anti-male. We don't like it. We're actually married to women, you know, some of us. And it was an astounding moment. And the idea that a delegate representing part of Fairfax County and Loudoun County would support it is astounding. You know, I represent the NRA. They're headquartered in my congressional district. In fact, I think I've represented them for a while, Kate, because I think they were in Providence too, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, so I've had the proud distinction of representing the NRA for going on 19 years. I am the NRA's congressman. And I'm very proud of the fact that every year they give me an F. Now here's a question. Are you proud of the fact that they give your delegate an A? No. She didn't just get an A. Virginia actually, at one point, when Doug Walder became governor, led the entire east coast of the United States as the major source of illicit gun sales, up and down the entire east coast. A very simple measure introduced by Doug Walder and supported by both parties. 1 gun a month. Sounded simple and maybe too simple. It worked. It dried up that supply of guns on the East Coast. This year, the General Assembly voted to repeal that. And our delegate was right in there with them, voting to repeal 1 gun a month. Now explain that to us, Barbara Comstock, after Virginia Tech, after the Sully Police Station tragedy right here in Fairfax County. And by the way, the NRA solution, good guys need to have guns too. Well, there are a lot of good guys at the Sully Police Station with guns. It didn't prevent that tragedy from happening because the deranged young man who went there had unlimited access to assault weapons in his parents' townhouse and ammunition. And yet, after all of that, our delegate feels that the need for any kind of reasonable measure to protect the public from dangerous weapons is a reasonable encroachment on Second Amendment rights. I say she has to go. Her rigid ideology, her rigid partisanship, her anti-women votes, her anti-reasonable public safety measures against dangerous weapons votes in the General Assembly, and now she's in there with that crowd trying to suppress the vote, change the rules of the game on how electoral votes are allocated, and, of course, she'll be a vote, should it get to the House floor, on changing redistricting in the middle of the game. These are all attempts to win elections when you can't.
Right.
She's got to go.
Yes.
So it's time, I say to my friends here in the 34th District, time, long past time, but it is time to make a change. It matters to us. We have somebody sitting in that seat who does not represent our values.
No.
And we are entitled to somebody who does. Fortunately, we got somebody. If you promise to show up at St. Patrick's Day, if you promise, in addition to that, to work your hearts out, Kathleen Murphy, our next delegate, I promise you, I will move heaven and earth to help this woman get elected to the General Assembly of Virginia. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank goodness we've all put our Christmas stuff away because it's now time to get out all the green things with the shamrocks. You know, I mean, there's such a season for this, but it's always the political season in Virginia, right, everybody? We just take a break and then we come back. By the way, Sheila Olam is here. Sheila is on the Herndon Town Council. I wanted to say hi to her. Shout out to her. All the way from Herndon. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is very well known to all of you. He is the gentleman who represents us right here in Drainesville on the Board of Supervisors. And again, John has been a friend, a collaborator, a colleague. I stood outside the giant food store with him on his first race, and we handed out John Faust literature in the sleet. I remember that, and we have been fast friends ever since. Again, someone who's but then you came back and won. He has represented us so ably and well, and someone who understands the issues that affect all of us here. He's been our champion on transportation, on education, and on the quality of life that makes this place special and why we live here and why we care so much about our communities. John is going to tell you a little bit about why having a partner in Richmond at the state level is so absolutely critical to us continuing the kind of life that we've enjoyed today and what we can all do to help give him a really good partner in Richmond. John Faust.
Thank you, everyone. It's really an honor for me to be here to introduce the next delegate from the 34th District, Kathleen. Before I do want to point out that Congressman Connolly was offended by Terry McAuliffe's comment that Chairman Bulliver was the greatest chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Well, and I just looked around. I do not see Sharon here. In my opinion, the two greatest chairmen our Board of Supervisors ever had were Kate and Jerry. Okay, two other electeds, Chad and Jay, Chad Quinn, Jay Howe, they're elected to the McLean Community Center Board, and I can't tell you how important that position is in terms of making McLean the quality community that it is. So thank you guys for your service. Yeah, I'm honored, and I'm going to keep it short because I know you're ready to roll, man. She's been waiting a long time, but I am honored to introduce Kathleen. She and Bill have been great friends. Some of our best friends for the past 10 years, and it's just been a question of time. You know, when was Kathleen going to run? It was obvious that she's the type of person that we need to have representing us. And when Margie mentions the need that I have at the local level for a partner in Richmond that I can work so closely with and get things done for our community, it's not speculation. I mean, we know this as a fact because at one time I had the greatest partner in the world. And it's been a lot different since then, and I'm looking forward to going back and working with someone like Kathleen. You know, I do want to say a couple things about Kathleen's community service. She's been my appointee on the Fairfax County Human Services Council for over 5 years, and if you're familiar with that council, they really work to ensure that the most needy members of our community receive the services they need and the help that will enable them to move up and become more productive members of our community. Kathleen has done a stellar job in that regard, and the way I know that is, in addition to just observing her, it's almost unique that staff would come to a supervisor and thank them for appointing someone to a board, authority, or commission. But I have gotten that from county staff. They thank me for appointing Kathleen to the Human Services Commission because of her wonderful qualities. She's also been a tremendous contributor here in McLean through the McLean Community Foundation. And again, if you're familiar with that organization, they search for needs within the community, and then they search for ways to fund and address those needs. And Kathleen, I think, has been vice president and has been on that board for some time. And then probably the biggest contribution Kathleen has made in terms of the difficulty and the time and the just the importance of an issue is that she served as one of a small group of representatives on Fairfax County's Healthcare Task Force. And so her role was to take the Obama Affordable Care Act and determine how we were going to implement it in Fairfax County. Tremendous amount of work, a lot of good product, and as a result. But one thing I take away from that is that when she goes to Richmond, she will be prepared, unlike almost anyone else in Richmond, to take on Ken Cuccinelli and his outrageous attempts to kill health care reform. So the bottom line, I believe, Kathleen knows this community and she shares our values. I think unlike her opponent, she won't say one thing in McLean or Great Falls and then go and vote a different way in Richmond. She will not vote with the right-wing, downstate Tea Party Republican conservatives against our interests. She'll represent our interests. And that's why I believe she will be a tremendous voice for us in our community when she gets to Richmond. And that's why I am so thrilled that she decided to run and so excited to help her get elected. Kathleen Murphy, our next supervisor. Good luck. You'll do great.
It's long, lots of pages here. Thanks, Margie. Margie is impressive on so many levels, but the fact that she works so hard for our community and continues to provide leadership in or out of office, and besides that, she is one of my dearest and best friends. I want to thank Amy and Bob Burgoyne, because everybody who's been in politics for a while certainly knows what a pain it is for someone to give over their home for an event like this, and they've done a great job. And Sue Boucher, thank you for your help wherever you are, there, stuck by the front door. I am grateful to all of you for being here with me today to show your support as I kick off a campaign for the House of Delegates in the 34th District. I am running because I believe we all know we need a delegate in Richmond who will vote for the priorities, the values, and the interests of this community, of this area in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
I'm grateful to have Congressman Connolly here. I knew that if he got the crowd revved up and told at least one Irish joke that we'd be saved. But he is an outspoken advocate. He's relentless, really, as an advocate for all of us. And you know that he makes sure our voice is heard. And I don't want anyone to think that just because he's Irish and I'm Irish, that in any way affects my esteemed admiration for him. And I want to thank John Faust, because he is my friend, and he is a great supervisor. He works tirelessly for us, but he also opened this whole world up to me by making me his appointment on the Human Services Council, and I'm very grateful. I am happy to see so many of my friends here. I could go through the long list of them, but Margie has called out all your names, and I think people get tired of standing after a while. So I want to recognize my two biggest supporters, my daughter, Amanda Murphy. and my husband, Bill Sudo. I am running for the House of Delegates because I believe we need real solutions to the really serious problems that we face, and we don't have that. I'm running because our delegate in Richmond has failed us. Her voting record makes it clear. She does not represent our priorities or values or the people of this district, and in fact, she votes against us. Like you, I drive on our congested roads. I know our teachers are underpaid. And in the 5 years I've been on the Human Services Council, I have listened to people in desperate need. And I am always shocked and heartbroken that Republicans work hard to cut back on those services. I grew up an Air Force brat. My dad served in the military for 25 years. He was in 2 wars. And my mother, Catherine, raised 7 children. I was number 3. We were always divided into the top 3 and the bottom 4. I never got that. But one of the things that my mother did was she always found ways to help people who were in need. And as she did it, she would always drag us along and tell us, this is something you need to be doing. And I would tell you that we took food to hungry families, we babysat when people needed to go look for jobs. We bought Christmas presents to fill a house that otherwise wouldn't have had Christmas. And I cannot ever remember my mother turning her back, turning away from anyone who is in need. And the more often than I can count, at night she would look at us and say, you know, we can do better.
Yeah.
It is because of these values that I am a Democrat. And it is because of these values that I am standing here today asking for your support as I run for the House of Delegates. I approach problems in much the same way as my mother, which is probably why I get along with the people on the Human Services Council. I look for solutions. I don't look for excuses. I ask, what do we want to accomplish? What is going to work? What are we doing here? And is it making a difference? Well, I know that we can do better. I know that if we work together, we can do better for Virginia and for our community. And I intend to win this election, but I don't intend to win it just for me. I intend to win it for all of you. We have lived here for over 20 years now, and this is my home. It's an Air Force brat. I had a lot of other homes, but I'm really glad that Virginia turned out to be the last home. I believe that all of us here share the same values and want the same things. We want good schools, good roads, infrastructure that we can rely on, quality health care, protecting our environment, supporting businesses big and small, and certainly we want rational gun safety laws. Like all of you, we want first-class public schools where our children can learn and thrive and be safe and get prepared for their future. Like you, I want transportation, real solutions to the transportation problems, and not just sleight of hand. Because, and all of you know this, you cannot keep borrowing from today and call it a surplus. We cannot pretend to solve a $1 billion problem with a $5 million Band-Aid. And we cannot do it by taking money away from education.
Yeah.
I support health care reform that ensures that all people have coverage and that coverage should include dental and mental health. I want to protect the environment. We all want clean water and air, and we do not believe that climate change is a liberal invention. Like you, I want sensible gun safety regulations, including universal background checks and limits on the size of magazines. It will safeguard our communities. We must demand it because it is the responsible thing to do. Now, this is personal for me, and people who know me well know that my brother was murdered. He was murdered by a gunman with an illegal gun that he had probably bought on the street corner. I can promise you that there is nothing really more personal than that kind of a loss. My family has recovered as much as you can, and we have moved forward. And so today I am standing here because I think this is going to be a very important issue in this election, and I hope all of you will work very hard. So Bill and I have this blended family. We have one son and 5 daughters. I know. Believe me, I know. People will always say that girls are easier than boys, or boys that are easier than girls. Yeah, I think that neither way is really true. They're just all hard.
And all a blessing.
Oh, and all a blessing. But you can trust me when I say that I will work to ensure women's equality. I think that women should have equal pay, workplace flexibility, and the right to have access to prescriptive medications, and the right to make important choices about their own body.
Yes.
We support women's rights and gay rights because they are human rights. When I look at what's going on in Richmond right now, I'm just shocked. They are a bad joke. They are a bad joke on television. Listen to Colbert. You may laugh, but then you have to be a little embarrassed because they're talking about our representatives. But first they did it with invasive ultrasounds, and now they're trying to subvert democracy. And someone needs to tell them, stop. And that's what we can all do. We know what's important to our community. We cannot let our voices be drowned out by the Tea Party, Cuccinelli, Comstock extremists.
Yeah.
We cannot stand on the sidelines as they try to drag us backwards and force on us their extreme social agenda. We have to say no. So this is the part where I turn to all of you and I say, I can't do this alone. I want to ask you, if you want someone who will work for you, if you want someone who will vote for your priorities and your values, that you will work for me. I believe we can do better. And I believe that if we knock on doors and sign up over there to volunteer and make phone calls and tell your neighbors, but the one really effective thing you could do is pass out a copy of Barbara Comstock's voting record to all your neighbors, because she's been fooling them for way too long. Now is the time for change in Richmond. Working together, we can make it happen. So I want you to join me now so we can win in November. And thank you all.